One thing I hear a lot from beginning travel sketchers is that they have a lot of trouble drawing straight lines. This seems to cause a lot of anxiety, and when you have anxiety around it, you tend to be really tentative and you're trying to plan against not drawing this line straight by erasing and putting pencil down and before the ink, and you're worrying about the line. And what happens is you just lose all of that natural expression and abandon that you want in your line work. But actually, drawing straight lines is not that difficult if you know the tricks. So in this video, I want to share some methods that you can use that's going to take all the mystery out of it and all the anxiety out of it, so that with just a little bit of practice, you can soon be drawing those straight lines easily and with abandon when you're sketching. In case you don't know, my name is Brett Renee. I'm an artist. And thank you for joining me on my channel. If you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and do so. Also, I wanted to let you know my community Adventure Artist is up and running. You can join through the link in the description. And in there, I'll be giving you tips and tricks I don't share on YouTube, and also letting you know how eventually you can go sketching with me. So anyway, enough of that. Let's get started. So before I jump in and show you the methods, I just want to give you something to think about. So when you're drawing straight lines, you don't want them to be absolutely perfect. I mean, if you just want really super photorealistic straight lines, you can make them. You can take a ruler and you can just use the ruler and draw straight lines. But what happens when you do that is you don't end up with a sketch, which should just be an impression of what you're sketching. You end up with something that's like an architectural blueprint, and it's boring. What you want is to have your lines be straight enough so they complete this illusion of what you're trying to convey. And if your line work isn't perfect, it just adds to the personality of it. Like, a lot of really good travel sketchers are very loosey-goosey with their lines, and that works for them. But you can, if you like to draw on the more realistic side, that works too. I tend to draw on the more realistic side, but if my lines go a little bit off, I just leave it. It just adds to the personality of the sketch. Remember, this is an impression, and you want your personal expression to come into the line work. So you can take the pressure off of yourself a little bit right here, and just think about the fact that what you want is your lines to be straight enough that you want your lines to go where you intend them to go, but they don't necessarily have to be perfectly straight. So the first thing you need to understand when drawing straight lines is how your hand, wrist, and arm work. So when you're drawing, if you're drawing with your wrist naturally goes in this sort of a U motion. Like, if you're using your wrist to draw circles, it's brilliant. You can make circles really easy because this is a very natural motion for the wrist to go around and around and around. But if you're trying to use your wrist to make a straight line, what happens is you might start out okay, but eventually you're going to go up because that's the natural motion of the wrist. And then you're going to be like, maybe you're thinking, oh, it's going really great all of a sudden, and then it goes up and you're like, why did I make that gesture? I wanted to go straight. Well, the reason is because it feels natural for your wrist to do that. So it's going to go off to the side instead of stay straight. So the way you change this is you want to lock your wrist in place. And you want your wrist and your hand and your arm to all be one unit, and you want to use it all as one thing from the shoulder. So you want to put your body into it a little bit and make it straight. So now you can make short lines, you can make long lines as long as you want. You're using your whole body, and you can go in all different directions. Now, I do find that there are some directions that feel more natural to me than others. Like, I love going this way, away from my body. It feels really easy. I can do long, short lines. It feels like nothing. Coming back always feels a little awkward to me. Well, you can turn your journal and then draw the way you want to. Like, you don't have to keep it right in front of you, right side up. You can draw upside down if you want to. But the point is, you want to use your whole body. So I'm going to show you some of this on the page. So this is something you could practice, just locking your wrist, keeping the arm all as one unit, and just making some lines. Just making these gestural movements, in lots of different directions. And just see how that feels. You can make some shapes, you could make some triangles, you could make some squares. And this isn't my good watercolor paper. This is just some mixed media paper. You could take a piece or two of this with you when you're out travel sketching, and it's a great warm-up exercise. You can just practice making some lines and practice those gestures, and then when you go to sketch, it's going to feel very second nature. So now that you've got that gestural movement down, the next thing is to get the line to go where you want it to go using that movement. And the way you do that is by first visualizing the line on the page and then laying it down. So there's different methods you can use to do that. And let me show you one that works really well for laying down both vertical and horizontal lines. Okay, so let's just start with vertical lines. So let's just say you're drawing a street scene in perspective, 1-point perspective. Okay, the streets are going in here. Maybe here's your vanishing point. So when you draw in 1-point perspective, the horizontal lines, they are at an angle, but the vertical lines stay straight. So it sometimes can get confusing to the eye to look at these angled lines and remember where straight is if you just start drawing. So you have the side of your journal or your page. So use that as a guide. So you can look at the straight line here of the natural paper and make a straight line looking at the page. The other thing is, if it starts to feel too far away, you can just move your hand. Come over here. And then you've got this side also that you can use to visualize. So let's just say you want to make a horizontal line. Like maybe you're doing a landscape and you want to indicate a line between the ocean and the sky. So it's the same thing. You have the edge of the journal here. This is a straight line. You also have one up here that you can follow along with. So you're going to eyeball one of those. I would practice it a couple of times and then just lay it down. And if this angle doesn't feel good to you, like sometimes this feels a little awkward to me. That line's pretty straight, but maybe this feels a little more comfortable. Like I like to work away from my body, so it's the same thing. I can just, do lines like this. Whatever feels good to you. But you just use this and your locked hand to just follow along. So the next thing I'm going to show you is called the dot method. If you've watched other sketch artists drawing in real time on YouTube, you've probably seen at least one of them use the dot method. So what this is you're putting a dot in the place that you want the line to end. So it gives you something visual that's small, that gives you a place to take the line to. So let me just demonstrate here. So let's just say you're drawing a house. Here's the sides of the house. So you know that the house is going to have a roof, okay? So maybe the roof is in the middle. So here we've got, here's this, there's the middle, there's that. So maybe the top of the roof's like maybe right there. So I'm going to put a dot, okay? And then here's the top of the house. So we know that my line is going to go from here to here. So all I need to do is place my pen here at the beginning, and this is my goal. So this is where my eye line is. My eye is going to be on the dot, and I'm just going to run right to it. Now let's just say that this feels like a really big line. It feels too scary and you want to break it up. That's what I'm going to show you next. Okay, now there are other people that will tell you put a bunch of dots and then connect the dots. But what's going to happen is the line is not going to look like one long gestural line unbroken, because you're going to have these little dots here. And then when you run the ink over those dots, it's going to reinforce it and it's going to make it even worse. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you a way that if you don't want to do your whole line completely unbroken, but you want it to look like one solid line, there's a way to do this. So let's do another house. Let's just say here is the side of a house, here's the side of a house. Okay, and same thing, like we measure to, here's the roof line. Okay, so I'm going to take my line from here to here, but I feel like that's really far. So, and I don't feel like I can just move right to the dot. So here's what you can do. You can start the line. So you're still going to look at your dot. You're still going to start here. Put your pen down and you're just going to start. And then you're going to stop. Maybe that's where I feel comfortable stopping. Okay. So now all you have to do is put your pen down. You're going to put the nib. You don't want to put the nib on top of the ink that you just drew. And you want to put the nib next to the end of the line on the white space. And then put it there. And then start again. And again, you're looking there. The reason you don't overlap, so let's just say I overlapped, like it reinforces and then you get this sort of dot here, right? You get it, it doesn't look unbroken. But now, if you look here, there's a tiny little space here, but it basically looks unbroken. And I tell you, once you start painting on top of this, you won't even notice it. But if even that little bit bothers you, you could very carefully put the nib in between. And there you go. The line is totally unbroken. So you can do this with really long lines. Like let's just say here, I want to do it with this line. So this is where my dot is. This is where I'm starting. So I just go a little bit, stop. I'm going to put that there right next to it. Stop. And then one more. There you go. And you have this, what looks like a very straight, unbroken line, but you were able to take a breath in a couple of places. Okay, so there's one more thing I'm going to show you, and it's called the connector method. So let's just say that this is all one house. It's not two separate houses. And maybe there's like, I don't know, a picture window here, and we have a door coming down, and maybe there's another little window here, you know, and we're going to be completing the roof later, okay? Let's just say that the house needs a line on the bottom here to completely ground it and finish the shape. So you could just use the horizontal method and you could just follow your page and just draw. But what's even easier is you've already got these lines here that you need to connect, right? They're all going to connect to the line you're about to draw. So instead of just drawing this one big line, you just draw these lines. You draw a line from here to here, you draw a line from here to here, here to here, here to here, all the way across. And you can even, and this particular one is kind of big, so you could break it up. So it looks like this. So this is really where your dot is. You're going to put your nib here, and you can angle if it feels more comfortable. And you just move across to that one. And then you start again, move your nib over onto the side so you don't overlap. Again, here, here. And you might want to break this up. So you just across, maybe stop with that, and voila, there you go. So these are all really good methods for drawing straight lines. It helps you just to break things up, to visualize it first, and it's just so much easier. All you need to do is just practice this a little, and I guarantee you'll just start doing it automatically, and you won't be so worried about straight lines anymore. But that said, don't underestimate the power of sketching loose. Here's a sketch I did that I was just sitting across the street, and I was just looking at the building I was sketching, and I didn't look at my hand or on the paper. I just let my hand just go. And I think I did look maybe a couple times when I would move the nib of the pen to a new section, but when I was in a section, I just let the pen fly around, and I didn't look at the page. And it's interesting how your hand really knows how to go, like your eye knows how to direct your hand. So don't be afraid to work like that. It's kind of amazing how if you just let yourself draw and don't try and control it, your hand will learn very quickly how to make straight lines without you having to do anything about it. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you had fun, maybe learned something. Keep sketching, and I will see you on the next one.